Ha! Ooh. I was told you would go quietly, McBain. No! No! You know there's no way I can handle a cage, man. Let me go out there and just get one wave. Just one wave. Oh, that's too big. San Andreas is a fairly straightforward action disaster movie. It's so straightforward that I can't even remember the name of the character that The Rock plays. And that's okay, because it's the kind of movie where you just kind of want to go in, turn off your brain, and have a good time. Okay, so the setup is pretty simple. The Rock plays a rescue helicopter pilot, and once the proverbial fertilizer hits the fan, he sets out to rescue his daughter and estranged wife. Paul Giamatti plays a geologist who is motivated to help warn the public about the impending doom. Okay, so let's talk about the positives. This is the first movie this year that I actually really enjoyed the 3D. Really? Avengers? Mad Max? I know. And I saw this in a theater with AVX sound. So when the buildings were falling towards you and the seats were shaking, it just made for a really great experience. And I'm not sure how that's going to translate when it will be seen on a smaller screen or in 2D. But for me, for the most part, I felt that all the disaster scenes were really well done. The tidal wave scene, I thought was going to be hokey at first, but it actually was fairly effective. For the most part, The Rock and Carla Gugino, who plays his estranged wife, carry this movie. Carla looks fantastic, as always. They do try to set up a backstory for them, but bear in mind, other than perhaps the opening scene, this movie takes place all in one day. With a condensed time frame like that, it makes it very hard to establish someone's life story. All of it has to be taken in quick settings, and it also has to make sense to the story at that moment in time. In a nutshell, their family has been split apart because they had two daughters, and the one daughter died in a rafting adventure. So when The Rock, being a rescuer by trade, was not able to save her, he felt responsible for that one daughter's death. And, well, the movie explores that in dialogue scenes between him, his daughter, and his ex-wife, talking about his daughter, played by Alexandra Dadarrio. She works together with another guy and his younger brother to reach safety in San Francisco. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on. Last thing, this movie has one of my favorite scenes in a film this year. It has to do with Paul Giamatti's character at Hoover Dam. And him and his assistant are investigating tremors when a huge earthquake hits. Give props to this guy, Will Young Lee, who plays the assistant, because when the dam begins to break, they work together to save this young girl. And the dialogue they use in it is perfect. Paul Giamatti's performance and acting is stellar. For me, it just hit all those right notes. It's a scenario where I don't want to overhype it because it may alter your experience with it, but just know when the dam broke, the sound, the score, and the whole scene was phenomenal. Moving on to the negatives. Okay, you know, as I said, that this is a fairly straightforward action disaster piece. It does give in to some very familiar tropes that we've all seen before. Things happen just way too conveniently for some things at times. There is a tacked on kiss scene between Alexandra Dadarrio and the token stud that I felt was out of place. If they didn't have that, I felt like the chemistry between those two was actually pretty good. And I liked the little brother there because it added some more flavor to it. People would like to criticize The Rock's acting ability in this, but for what it was, I thought that he actually did okay. Let's move on to the scoring. Acting, directing, and story are out of a possible 2 points each. Acting, as I said, was serviceable for the most part. It suited the movie. Paul Giamatti really brought the acting gravitas to this. So for his performance alone, I gave acting 1.5 out of 2. Directing, I thought, was also pretty good. The pacing was really well done. It had accents of these scenes, both action and dramatic. So I'm giving it a 1.5 out of 2. The story was straightforward. It did give into some standard cliches, but it didn't bother me. So 1 out of 2 for story. Cinematography and score are out of a possible 1 point each. I like the scope of this. I like the visual effects, and the 3D worked for me. So I gave cinematography a full point. The score, the sound design, it was very well done. It was okay. So a 0.5 out of 1 for the score. And that brings us to the watchable factor. I did like this movie, and I would watch it again, perhaps in 2D to see if it holds up. You really do feel the weight of the destruction scenes. Again, it's the type of movie where you just want to turn off your brain and have fun. For that, I gave a 1.5 out of 2 for the watchable factor. Adding all that up, that gives us a 7 out of 10 for San Andreas. It's worth the look. Okay, so if you've liked what you've seen, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe.